At the start of early access, Brighter Shores is about a 6.5 out of 10. Here's who I recommend play the game. If you like RuneScape, you will absolutely enjoy Brighter Shores. If you like other MMOs, you'll probably like Brighter Shores. If you like the cozy farming gathering type games, you'll probably also like Brighter Shores. But if you are none of the above, you almost certainly will not like Brighter Shores. Being that it is an online isometric point and click grindy adventure game developed by Andrew Gower, the closest example to compare Brighter Shores to is obviously RuneScape. So let's do it. Yes, there are certain elements of Brighter Shores done differently than in RuneScape, but the core of the two games are essentially identical. You click on something to perform an action, you wait for it to finish, you get some XP, and you repeat the process. Eventually, you'll gain enough XP to then level up so that you can click on a slightly different thing to perform a slightly different action for slightly more XP, otherwise known as number go up. So make no mistake, Brighter Shores is 100% undoubtedly a numbers go up game, just like that other point and click isometric grindy adventure game made by Andrew Gower. Funny how that works. Given all of that, the question then becomes, is the whole numbers go up thing actually satisfying? Being that it's basically all you're going to be doing, having a rewarding sense of progression is key, no matter how mundane the process might actually be. And as a whole, yes, the overall progression of Brighter Shores is satisfying. Not every aspect is individually satisfying, combat, but when all of them are put together, the overall progression is a largely satisfying experience. So the final question then becomes, how long does that progression actually last? The answer is about 50 hours if you choose to spend $6 for the premium pass for 1 month. Yes, it is a monthly reoccurring fee, and about 20 hours if you do not. However, be warned before jumping in that the skills you train in this game are called professions and are essentially only relevant to the episode in which you train the skill. What I mean by this is, there are currently 4 episodes, and in each episode you have a number of skills to train, such as fishing and alchemy in episode 1 and mining and blacksmithing in episode 3. However, there are no places to fish in episode 3 and no places to mine in episode 1. Furthermore, for combat skills, each episode has its own. In episode 1, it's called Scout, and in episode 3, it's called Mine Fighter. What's the difference? The icon and the menu. That's literally it. I wish I was joking. On top of that, Scout gear and Scout levels provide literally 0 stats against Mine Fighter enemies, meaning that you have to farm entirely separate gear and combat levels for each episode. As soon as you walk through the gate to episode 2, bam, your combat level is 0. We're going to touch more on all of that in just a bit though. What I mean by all of that is, be prepared for a soft reset every time you reach a new episode. You are not literally reset, as all of the gear and levels that you got in the previous episode are still intact. You just won't really be able to use any of them in the next episode. And yes, hang on for you. Actually, guys, yes, I am fully aware that you can kill this monster over here in Act 3 and it drops a potion reagent which you can use to craft over in episode 1. Did you know that? Why, yes, you can definitely do that. For example, you can kill this level 10 cockroach here in episode 3 and have it drop a potion reagent for episode 1, which requires level 131 alchemy. You can do that. However, 131. Anyway, that's about as good as I can summarize Brighter Shores. If you like RuneScape or any other grindy, incremental type game, or just MMOs in general, you'll probably enjoy your time with Brighter Shores. It's free to play with the first 2 episodes. Might as well check it out. But now, let's get into some details. First, the absolute best features of Brighter Shores are its animations, sound design, and overall world building. If you've played RuneScape, you know exactly what that last point means. The dialogue has a certain quirky charm to it, and each major environment has distinctive features and landmarks that easily separate it from the others. Brighter Shores feels like a living world, which in this day and age of modern gaming, where the tools are more accessible than ever, and yet each game's characters and world building all look and feel nearly identical, it's a breath of fresh air. Regarding the sound and animations, think HD RuneScape. No, not the convoluted amateur mess of modern RuneScape's art direction, the original RuneScape when it received its first graphical update. Brighter Shores is basically those graphics, but even more refined and with top-notch sound and animations behind them. Seriously, the only 2 downsides I can think of regarding the overall immersion in Brighter Shores are, number 1, the lack of facial animations when speaking. This was a feature in RuneScape ever since RuneScape 2 branched off from Classic way back in 2004, and it's a very odd decision to not have it. And number 2, the room system. You do get used to this after a few hours, but think of rooms like you're essentially playing RuneScape at 10% render distance. Again, just a very odd design choice. Originally, Brighter Shores was going to be a single-player D&D tabletop-inspired experience, but was changed at some point towards the end of its 10-year development cycle to instead be an MMO. This tabletop tabletop feel would definitely explain the original decision for the room system, but why are they still in now their original state, presumably, despite the swap over to an MMO? At worst, rooms unnecessarily add to a claustrophobic feeling, especially for first-time players, while also providing a clunky traversal experience, while at best, they're just neutral. After 50 hours, I have yet to experience a room elevating any one of Brighter Shore's positive features. At the very least, I believe that changing the render distance to your current room plus any adjacent ones would greatly mitigate all of their downsides without detracting heavily from their intended purpose. However, obviously, yeah, I would just like to see my entire screen rendered. Thank you very much. I'm playing on a very expensive computer in the year 2024. I want to see all the pixels on my screen at the same time. Anyway, those are, in the grand scheme of things, relatively minor points, as again, the positives of the graphics, the animations, the world building, all of that stuff heavily outweigh the negatives. That being said, though, let's now get into some of the worst aspects of Brighter Shores. Starting with the combat, unfortunately. By far, the single largest negative thing about Brighter Shores is its combat. To put it plain and simple, it's unrewarding and uninteresting. It's basically RuneScape's combat, but even less engaging, if you can believe that. You only have ranged or melee attacks, no magic, and not even any special attacks at this point of the game, and your ranged weapon only has 3 or 4 shots in it before it's empty and you're forced to go into melee. On top of that, the combat itself is identical to the patented RuneScape formula, where you just kind of sit there, exchange hits back and forth, and wait to see who wins the fight. The only skill expression in the current iteration of combat is simply timing your health potion directly after you land a hit to then maybe skip a hit that the enemy would otherwise land. That's actually it. Timing the animation of your health potion. Yes, you can technically perform a step under, as you can in RuneScape, where you land a hit and then move underneath of the enemy, wait for your attack timer to reset, then step out and attack again, syncing up a slower, hard-hitting weapon with the enemy attack directly. But in reality, this is even more irrelevant to the outcome of the fight, as is chugging your potion at the frame-perfect time. Oh, and you also move at like 5% of your normal movement speed while in combat for whatever reason. Oh, and you can't just retreat from a fight. No, you have to stand still and channel a spell that is literally called immunity for 5 seconds before you can then run away at normal speed. Oh, and monsters automatically aggro you. Brighter Shore's combat is actually just old school RuneScape plus RuneScape Classic, but they took out every single good aspect from both of them, and I'm genuinely baffled that Andrew Gower and the team thought this was the right choice. Furthermore, the gear that you use in combat is awful. Here's how the system currently works. And I say currently works because I really hope that it gets changed very soon. Please, Andrew, please. You have deflect stats, which roll on each piece of armor, correlating to the 6 different types of damage in the game. That's it. For weapons, you have a strength rating and a damage type. That's it. Well, I mean, there also is an attack speed associated, but it's a hidden stat and you can't affect it by any means. So, yeah. Now, where things have the potential to get crazy is with the tier system. Every armor and weapon that drops rolls with up to 4 stars or 4 tiers. The more stars an item has, the higher its stat values become. On top of that, every item also has an item level, which is based on the level of the enemy that dropped it, which also scales the stats. This means that the increases to your overall power that an upgrade item gives you are scaled by both its level and its tier, which, hey, I mean, that sounds pretty good, right? On paper, you can farm the same monster and continually get upgrades. That's cool. However, in reality, again, those increases that each upgrade provides are so numerically low that you will never feel more powerful. End of story. Period. Never. Like, I straight up thought gear was bugged on days 1 and 2 because I just did not feel more powerful. Ever. That's how bad the sense of progression is. On top of the gear, when you do actually level up the combat skill, which again, there's only one singular combat skill per episode, which are functionally identical. They just arbitrarily are reset every single episode and require you to farm everything from scratch again. That's pretty cool, right? Every time you level up one of those combat skills, all you get is 2 maximum hit points and a tiny bit of deflect to each of the damage types. That's it. No ability unlocks, no passive points of any kind, no damage increases. All you get is a little bit of HP and a little bit of deflect. Take it or leave it, bucko. And do you want to know the best part about all of this? There's level scaling. The millisecond that you kinda, sorta, maybe perhaps felt a little more powerful, guess what, buddy? XP penalty. Boom! Goodbye. Go farm that higher level monster over there, which completely nullifies all of that power progression that you just felt. See ya, buddy. What? You wanted like abilities to unlock at various progression breakpoints that make you feel more powerful despite you fighting ever tougher enemies? Pfft, what are you, dumb or something? What? When you go from a 2-star mace to a 3-star mace and you hit a 19 max instead of an 18 max after 2 hours of grinding, that's not satisfying for you? Pfft, wow, you really are needy, huh? What? You want a freaking damage increase from leveling up your combat skills? How stupid can you I rest my case. Combat in Brighter Shores sucks balls. Lastly, I want to cover everything else about Brighter Shores, the things that are just kind of neutral. First, the overall progression of the game. As I said, I'd give the game a 6.5 out of 10, which, yeah, I guess that's technically actually a positive review score, but that score reflects the entire game, not just the gameplay itself. The immersion and all of that jazz is factored into the score. So for the overall progression, aka the entire reason to play the game, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not great either. As you just heard by me getting an aneurysm, the combat is bad. The other skills, though, they're not that bad. I personally don't mind the whole episode locked leveling thing. It's no different than like Varrock not having any fly fishing spots while Lumbridge does. The issue, and really the sum of Brighter Shores as a whole, is that you never really feel like you're progressing towards anything. Like, sure, you could say the same thing about RuneScape, but that's not really true. You have endgame PVM content like bosses and raids. You have grandiose ultra gamer level quests that require a metric butt ton of stats to actually complete, and when you do finally complete them, they often unlock an entirely new set of content. None of that stuff is really present in Brighter Shores, unfortunately. But being that, again, this is right at the start of early access, I'm confident that it will eventually have some of that stuff, but the reality is that right now, it doesn't. And hey guys, Future Woolie here. I forgot one thing that I really needed to mention in the review, so here I am a day later putting it in. The knowledge system. So how the knowledge system works is I think it's every 10,000 experience. It probably scales once you get to higher levels, but every 10,000 global experience that you gain on your character, you get 1 knowledge point. And you can choose to spend this point in 3 ways. Number 1, you can just dump XP into any other skill. It's level 20 or above. And the cool thing is that I think the XP that you get in the skill is always about like 20 to 25% of a level. This probably slows down heavily once you get to higher levels. But for example, 32 carpentry is a breakpoint for a lot of people because it unlocks a pretty cool like storage system. So a lot of people put their knowledge points into carpentry, myself included. And every time that I put a point in, it basically gave me a quarter of a carpentry level, even level 20 up to level 30. I was still getting a quarter of a level every single time. So basically, just by training any other skill in the game, you can eventually just dump XP into one skill that you want. You can also unlock various offline training methods that cost just 1 point per skill. The higher level of the skill, the higher level of offline progression you can unlock, so you just toss more and more points. And then finally, you can also like get a little bit of money if you want, but I think that option is very limited in its usefulness. Anyway, I just wanted to say that the knowledge system is a fantastic addition to a grind-based game. Just by training any of your other skills, you can then, by extension train one specific skill or one like very difficult skill or annoying skill. You can just, pump XP into it. Pretty cool idea. I want to end this review by saying directly that I am very excited for the future of this game. I know it's kind of a cliche thing. You look at reviews and it's like, this game has so much potential. It's like, what does that even mean? Every game has potential. Now, what I mean by this is it's a passion project developed by a very small group of guys, and that group of guys' track record is RuneScape. I'm a firm believer that a small, passionate group of guys are the lifeblood of gaming and really entertainment industries as a whole. Who knows how long it's going to take for the improvements to come to this game though? I sure don't. All I know is that I'm signing up for the ride, baby. Anyway, what do you guys think about Brighter Shores? Leave a comment below. You can check out my stream at twitch.tv/WoolieGaming. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.